Hello gang, welcome to the channel, and today we're here to go through Alliance Conquest. It's a game mode for PvP. Go deep into Alliance Conquest and the start of this game mode, where you need to focus on make yourself the best team out of your account. I'm gonna give you the 3, 4 or 5 things that you need to be careful a lot before you assemble a team. And the number one thing that you need to know and you need to care about mostly, it's type affinity. Yeah, believe it or not, these symbols here on the game guide that tells you that the combat type has the disadvantage against blast type, the blast type has a disadvantage against speed type, and the speed type goes a disadvantage against combat type. It's the, it's this triangle that you have to know every single time, and in the same time you need to know that universals are above all. So the best characters to use most of the times are universals for this specific game mode, and a healthy team to go with it's having all 3 types, or at least a universal, 2 types like a blast type and a combat type. So you need to pay attention a lot on that. But before we go through that, you need to have the leadership, the PvP leadership. So 2 at the moment, type affinity and PvP leadership. And what a PvP leadership looks like, here we are. I have for you pretty fast all the leaderships in the game. It's like 25 characters, and all these 25 characters got a leadership, like our boy here, Strife, who is going to get a new uniform as soon as possible, next week probably. And it's this thing, leader activation: when debuffed, remove all debuffs. This is the most important thing that you need to know about Alliance Conquest. Assemble a team around these leaderships, and the only characters that you don't need to have them as leadership, but they can provide to specific, members of your team is like Wasp here. Wasp got her own passive ability that provide all debuff to all allies. So if you have a team that got a leadership that gives you attack or defense or whatever, you can actually use Wasp as an extra character, as a support, and take advantage of this. If you have your uniform also, you get an extra HP. And if you have the other character that you can use for exactly the same reasons, it's Morgan Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay, it's only for universal types, and as you can see, even without her being your leadership, you can get advantage through that, and you can go against universal typed allies. You can get a debuff for all of your universal type allies that you have in your team. Like, you can use her as a support character and use, let's say, Thor and someone else who is universal. Actually, now I'm frozen there. But before I go through all the video and go through all these stats and things, I want to share with you who is the mastermind behind this video. This dude tell me how he's doing it, how his alliance doing it, and how he is the way of thinking. It's a dude that it's most of the times in my comments on the videos. He's a great fan of Cynicalex and is on Cynicalex Alliance. And this dude is no other than MFF Doom. MFF Doom is on Nemesis Alliance, which we are against on Alliance Tournament and generally on ABX and ABL, but he's focusing on playing a lot PvP and a lot Alliance Conquest himself. As you can see here, he got himself a PvP team for Timeline Battle, and he's using Kang. And to be honest, he is one of the best players I know out there, for this specific content for PvP. So I took his advice, making a video through the teams and how to assemble the teams, and not focusing on the teams yourself. And as you can see, he's using Kang. Let's go into this mystery for everyone who is wondering. Kang is one really good leadership for PvP, and even if here his buff says that it's only 55% self buff, you can see here, if you go through a character and you have him in your team, I have like 35,000 energy attack, and if I swap him into the leadership position, Kang, you can see I'm getting into 42%, 42,000 energy attack. That means Kang's leadership works for everyone in the group. That's why he's using him. It's the meta character, you know, for this specific day. And here is all the characters basically that you can find yourself this leadership type thing, even on a leadership, and even if it's a leadership that it's for specific type, like you know, who is for symbiote allies. Carnage is here. Carnage leadership work for himself and everyone in the group who is actually a symbiote. So there's from these 25 leadership characters that I pull out here from my mind, only this one, and this is actually for universal types, this is actually for all the warriors of the sky, and the rest, and this one, it's passive also, but it's only for the Eternals. It's not this one, it's this one. Yes, all debuffs and applies to only Eternal allies. So yes, it's 25, but in the truth is that even less. It's even less if we go and get you know, remove the characters that gives only to specific type of characters. The leaderships are going to be even less. You can see here I removed some and there are only 22 characters to participate. Also there is Spider-Woman here who provides the ability through her leadership and removes only for Spider-Sense characters. But these days we have a lot of Spider-Sense characters like Gwen, like Spider-Man, where you can take advantage from multiple. So I keep here as I'm keeping the universal one because there is a lot of universal. And as you can notice here, the characters that actually have this leadership buff, this leadership basically remove all debuff for PvP, it's the really expensive one. It's native tier 2s, native tier 3s, paywall characters, as you can see here, multiple paywall characters basically. So it's kind of unfair if you need to build teams around from this thing. So you can manage and figure out some teams with leaders, with some characters that they are removing the debuffs from themselves. You know, this guy here, Captain America, remove all debuffs all the time himself, so he doesn't really need the leadership. So don't spend the leadership on characters that they don't actually need the leadership. So yes, you can have Wasp and Strife in the same team and use Strife as leadership because you are not going to take advantage of this leadership. Same thing for multiple other characters, you know, you need to figure out the team that you're going against also. So the first thing I could say, it's type infinity. After, it's the leadership. It's really important. Figure yourself which characters has the leadership, like the ones I have here favorite. And after that, you need to understand the game and where you're going to fight against. You know, if you go against a team that it's full of let's say, okay, let's remove my head here because you can't actually see these characters here also. Yeah, so what I was saying, if you're going against a team that has multiple blast types, you should build a team around with speed types and go against them so you can get advantage of type infinity. Also, other than just dropping a leadership, just dropping a character that have type advantage against others, you need to consider buffs. So you can't really go through and give you know, a support of Proxima, let's say, who applies only to universal, only to villains. Yes, I find a better example. You can't go through, build a team around, you know, have a leadership, have a combat type, a speed type, and go give the team a passive ability that it's against super villains, and you go against characters that they are superhero. So you need to see every single time what you are going against before you decide what team and what support buffs you're going to give into your three dudes there. So a leadership is important, type infinity, and acknowledge what are you going to attack to. You want to see, is the enemy villain, is the enemy hero? You're gonna need to build the team around and go to bypass the enemy. These three things is really important, but Other thing that you need to pay attention a lot, it's the character builds. Of course, you already know if you go and use some characters, you know, with super good CTPs and stuff like that, you're gonna have really better results generally. A really good CTP for this game mode, you know, it's Mighty Authority, where I have already equipped on my Kang, and of course, depending on the character, but Mighty Authority, Mighty Greed, Mighty Regeneration, it's the things that you're gonna find all over Alliance Conquest. But if you are not the player that you're gonna spend multiple CTPs for characters, a really fair CTP, basically obelisk to use every single time, it's something with guard break immunity, let's say max HP here or anything basically, and invisible proc for 5 seconds, as you can see. This thing pops out when you're below 40%, your HP is below 40%. I think there is one with 50% also, which is even better, but the invisible buff for 5 seconds, it's really important, as it is the guard break immunity. So if you want to have, you know, all your characters really good build for Alliance Conquest without spending for CTPs and stuff like that, you need to pay attention on this thing too. Artifact with pierce reduction helps a lot, or damage against pure evil, or damage against leadership, but pierce reduction, it's for every enemy that you have. So I would suggest for generic characters that you don't have their artifacts, or you just don't want to invest a lot on them, equip something like this: pierce reduction, and of course guard break immunity, invisibility. Also, the best ISO set, in my opinion, it's Protect the Captain for multiple characters of PvP. And the fact, of course, with some characters you want to use you know, offensive ISO set. Some characters have a lot of defense, so you want to use offense. But if your character, you just want to stay alive more and survive through Alliance Conquest, this thing here provides the best buff in the game, which is, of course, all defense, max HP, dodge, recovery rate, and crown control. It's 5 defensive buffs. Of course, you need to have really good cards, and you have to find yourself the ignore defense and cooldown from your cards or your options from uniforms, because this does not provide helpful stats to cap your stats, but it's providing you a lot of all defense, max HP, dodge, recovery, and crown control, where they are the really important stats that you need for Alliance Conquest. Also, there is the all defense that you get here, where you can't really lose this all defense. And what I'm talking about, when you go on any other defensive set, you know, like it is binary power, or let's see, I'm also Groot, they're actually giving you a percentage of heal, or actually giving you a shield. This shield and this heal is penetratable. The enemy can penetrate through all the skills that he have, and also he can do to you fracture, stopping you from healing. But the all defense that you're getting here stack up whatever you do. If the enemy, you know, goes through ambush proc on their CDP of Mighty CDP of Greed, this thing is gonna also count this defense. So the penalty you're gonna take from the enemy and the damage you're gonna get, it's gonna be decreased by this all defense also. So Protect the Captain is a really nice to go. Of course, you wanna see that you have the type enhancement on your characters up, because as you can see here, if you have a blast type, depending on how much type enhancement you have, as higher you are, as higher the percentage that you are getting against as damage, or decreasing the damage you are getting from the enemy. So type advancement, as I told you, the type infinity is really important. So you want to have your characters as higher as you can on the type enhancement here thing. Other than that, skills, okay, you know that you need your skills. Other than that, you want the 2 attacks that you have here on your character. You know, if you have energy attack, double energy attack Urus, and double HP Urus. The double HP Urus help you survive more, so a decent, you know, free-to-play build for every single character that you want to use for Alliance Conquest could look like that. Of course, some characters worth more go offense and use CTPs like CTP of Energy, go full offense, do a proc and kill the enemies, but I'm talking about the majority of the characters that you're going to use on Alliance Conquest, where you probably want to use them defensively. That's the fourth point. Let's say, you know, you need to care about, as I told you, type affinity. You need to care about leadership a lot. You need to care a lot about the enemy team and what your team looks like. You want to take advantage against teams that are full blast type with full speed types, let's say, and similar stuff that you can figure out yourself, of course. 4, it's the build of the characters. As you can see, you can have a really fat character and a character that can survive even as a free-to-play player. And the 5th thing that I could mention, so the point is to take advantage of all of your roster, and you don't want to drop these 2 teams, let's say, because the first team is always taking half the cooldowns on their characters. So when you use a team like this, your characters got the cooldown from the start. If the enemy, you know, if you have here an easy team and you drop this into the second team, the enemy, when you're gonna come to attack you, they're gonna have all of their skills charged up. The awaken skill, all the cooldowns gonna be off. So it's really unfair, and you could end up losing a lot of good teams if you go and use them as a second team. The second team, you probably drop the leftovers. And what I'm talking about, let's say that I want to go against a really good enemy team. I'm going to drop these 3 in the start. I have it saved, so I'm going to choose the team. I'm going to drop all these 6, and after I'm going to remove the 3 last, and I'm going to drop 3 abominations here, 3 bad characters for Alliance Conquest, or bad characters generally. With that way, you know, you have a more wide roster and you can take advantage of your save teams every single time, easy peasy. So let's say I'm gonna attack with this team, Gorgine and Carnage, and I'm gonna use these characters here. I'm pointing, you know, I'm betting that my first team is gonna do the kill and the second team is gonna just fill up there, so I don't have to spend more good characters. Because if you end up kill the enemy team with these 3 dudes, the second team is gonna be wasted totally. But even if you don't, but if you have it vice versa and you put these bot characters here and this team here, when you're gonna go against the enemy is gonna kill the first team, and in the second team they're gonna drop all their awaken, all the tier 3 skills, and whatever they're gonna end up charged from the previous cooldown thing phase. So the good team in front, the second team, it need to be a bad team most of the times, depending also on what type of alliance you are and on what moment of Alliance Conquest, you know. On some situation you want to double stack teams. If you have, you know, like 5 minutes left and you want to cap a place, let's say, and you don't want to wait until the last moment that most players do because the timer is going off and the area is going to be locked, you know, you're gonna double stack the teams, so the enemy is not gonna have the time to go through all the teams you have. But the generally rule is the good team in front, the bad team second, and every single time utilize your safe teams with this way. So here, if I want to use, let's say, my other team, the second team, I'm gonna go through, remove these characters, put the characters I have in the second team in front, and then fill up again with abominations. But now I can't really do that, so yes, I'm not gonna go through explain even more. I guess you did understand what I'm talking about, and let's go through the teams here and see you some show you some examples. These teams are actually a test, basically test teams that my bro MFF Doom was doing by the time we were talking about this video, and he was like, you know, he was putting the things that I told you before, the type infinity, the leadership, into paper and drops this team just for examples. It's not like the best teams, it's really good teams, don't get me wrong, it's not like bad teams, but in the same time you can see I have characters like, you can see here I'm using blast types, speed types, and combat types. I'm using here, you know, a team that gets a lot of energy defense with physical attackers. I'm using a full reflect team. There is multiple, you know, trick teams that you can go against really high DPSs like Jean Grey, like Adam Warlock, enemy that do a lot of energy attack or a lot of single shots, and utilize these characters. You know, all these three got themselves some reflect, so with this team you can reflect enemy teams. This team, you know, these two characters can debuff themselves, and Black Cat gives them a really good leadership for all the villains. This guy here provides a really good defensive support, all defense, and taking advantage of Morgan Le Fay passive ability that remove all debuffs from Universal, like I was saying before. And there is a lot of examples here and there for developer teaming, you know, team developer developing, like this one, all defense, Heimdall here with Wasp. Here Heimdall got his own leadership, got his own debuff remove. This is like, I'm not fully taking advantage of Wasp here, but it's just an example. So in my opinion, you know, Kang also has a place on your safe teams. He's really good. Mysterio also is really good, weirdly. Spot is really good from the characters, you know. A leadership, it's for my boy here, Malekith. You know, he just came to the game, and a lot is using him for a counter against Adam Warlocks because of the energy defense buff your team is getting. So yes, there is multiple teams. I'm not gonna go through all of them. I'm just dropping here the example for everyone who wanna develop same teams. Of course, as I told you, there are others that you can go through yourself depending on the roster you have and depending on the characters that you have unlocked until right now. That was it. I hope I covered you. Let's go one fast moment. Once again, you know, type Infinity, a leadership, strong leadership with remove all debuff. Take care of your characters. Make sure that you have guard break immunity. Make sure that you have the invisible buff for 5 seconds or less, whatever you have. Make sure that you have balanced your characters. You know, you're not gonna use all the CTP characters for one thing and all the obelisk characters for other team. Try to balance the teams, and also take care when you're gonna use the teams, the way that you're going to use it. If you use the team, you know, all the time, as I told you, first the good team, second the abomination team, but you know, this team up here, it's really good against superheroes. You know, you have Hela here, you have Thanos got himself a lot of buffs against heroes, so you want to use this team up here, let's say, to enemies that have guys like heroes like Wolverine, like Adam Warlock, like Spider-Man. I'm not sure, you know, but you get the point here. You need to think yourself about your team, the team that you are going to use. And with this team here, I'm having a lot of great success. I swapped them recently, like a couple of days, and in the previous Alliance Conquest, I had myself some really good results. Before, I had Mateo's team, from Mateo, the best teams, you know, and now we went into MFF Doom, and I'm gonna do that into my videos, you know. I'm gonna have the opinion of multiple players, and MFF Doom, it's a quite respectful player on you know, Marvel Future Fight. He's all over the Facebook groups, he's suggesting things, he's a really chatty guy, he's chatting a lot about the game, he loves the game. And yes, here is what he's thinking about Alliance Conquest, and my advice is also, you know, I knew this thing, but he kind of guide me through the video and guide me through the 5 or 6 things that you need to pay attention a lot yourself to go through and build some good teams. And the really important thing, it's the leadership, guys. So yeah, take a screenshot or whatever. This is all the leadership that you can find in the game. There is no other. So I hope you enjoyed. You there, PvP creep. I know there is a lot of you playing Alliance Conquest, you know, multiple times, 3 times per day, you know. I know you're setting your alarm clock to wake up in the middle of the night and play another phase of Alliance Conquest. So here's my suggestion, here is my teams. I hope I help you decide what to build next for Alliance Conquest. And yes, that was it. See you into the next. I hope you enjoyed. Kisses in your faces.